On this mileage unknown, we are actually going to try and get the brakes working on our 1966 Volkswagen Fastback. So on this car we did new calipers, new lines, new wheel cylinders and lines in the back, new master cylinder, and we cannot get the brakes bled. We used some of the hand bleeders. We actually used some of the air pressure bleeders that are supposed to suck the fluid through the back, and none of it's worked. We've pumped the crap out of these brakes and cracked the lines, still have a bad pedal, and I'm debating whether it's a bad master cylinder or we still got air. I wish I had the old master cylinder in my hands, because you'd see this one, all of the lines come out of the bottom, and I'm debating whether there's fluid or air stuck in the top of the master, and that might be our problem. Decided to buy one of the Motive Products power bleeders that actually force the fluid through the system. This one was a model 0250. It came with a couple different ones, including this is probably the most common Volkswagen adapter, but as you can see, it is way too large for the small reservoir. We ended up with, it's funny because we ended up buying a British adapter because they said that might need to be used, but I don't have the bag for this one. We did end up having to use the seal out of the British adapter for this, because when we first tried to pressurize it, we got brake fluid everywhere. The seal that came with this one didn't work for crap, but I think we've got it figured out. We've actually got it pressurized right now, so we know it's holding pressure, and we're going to go ahead and jack the car up and start bleeding brakes and see what happens. All right, so we're starting at the left rear. Got our hose hooked up. Just going into a water bottle with a little bit of a hole poked in it so it breathes, because sometimes these will build some crazy pressure as you're going. So I'm going to go ahead and crack the line and see how this goes. As you see, we actually have fluid coming out already, so that's nice. Doesn't really say how long we should leave it open, but I'm just seeing pretty solid fluid come out at this point. My brother just hollered at me that it's dropped a pound of pressure. Ooh, I am starting to see some bubbles come through the line right now. So we are definitely seeing some air bubbles come through, which is a good sign, because that might mean that the master did have air stuck in it.
2.5 about.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and shut this left side off. I'm not seeing any more air bubbles come through. We're going to shut this off, clean up the back of the drum, and move on to the right rear. Or the left rear, sorry. I've been at the right rear of the vehicle this whole time, starting from the farthest of the master cylinder. I'm pretty sure I said left rear. All right, now we're on the left rear. I know the last one I said we were on the left rear, but we were on the right rear. So we got that bleeder pumped back up to 15 psi. And I'm going to go ahead and crack this one loose and see what we got. So far, looks like nice, solid fluid coming out. But that's how the other one looked, and then we started to get the bubbles. Yep, I'm going to go ahead and shut this one off because it looks just like nice, solid fluid. It's already dropped a couple psi on the power bleeder, and we're not seeing any bubbles. That's a good sign. All right, so now we're at the right front. The calipers on this one have 2 bleeder screws. We're going to start at the top, move down to the bottom. We will crack them loose and see what happens. Once again, looks like we got good solid fluid out of this top one. I'm going to go ahead and just shut that one off and move to the lower one. All right, going to go ahead and crack open the lower. Not seeing any air bubbles come out of that one either. As you guys see, there's fluid dripping. It's harder to get the hose onto these bleeders on the front calipers. So, but everything looks good coming out of those lines. I'm gonna go ahead and shut that one off. So we are on the left front. This is our last one. I'm gonna crack these real quick and see if we get any more air bubbles. It does not look like it. It looks really, really clean. No air bubbles. I'm gonna swap over to the bottom one. Wow, and so far it looks like the bottom one looks really, really well. So on this, so far we only got a lot of air bubbles out of that right rear. I'm gonna go ahead and lock that back up and clean up. So this is how much fluid we were able to run through really, really easy with that Motive Products bleeder. And this was the correct adapter, that model 1104. That was the correct adapter for the small reservoir bottle on the Type 3s. And let's walk over really quick. I'll push the brake pedals, see if we actually have some brakes. Well, it definitely isn't going to the floor, which is nice. It feels better than it ever has with all the other bleeders and all the pumping and crap that we've done. I definitely think we can drive this one. We're going to throw the wheels back on, which you guys don't need to see, and we'll take another video of us maybe going down the road. Alright, so once we actually got the Motive power bleeder unhooked, we had no brake pedal again. This is something that is a pain in the butt about this Motive power bleeder, is when you're trying to hook it up, the lines just super twist up on you. But we're going to hook the Motive power bleeder back up, pump it up a little bit, and see if the brake pedal returns, to see if just this pressurizing the system is actually giving us some sort of brake pedal. Well, with that Motive power bleeder hooked up with only about 5 pounds, I actually have brake pedal again. So clearly there's something not working right. It very well could be the master's just not building the press you want, and that power bleeder is actually compensating for it. So we're going to unhook that, maybe still try and go for a ride around the block. Something else I thought was cool when we were doing our walk around we didn't catch, but if you look at that sticker, it says 12,791. The car had 93,038 miles on it, and right now the car has 93,309 miles. So from 1991 to now, it's only put about 300 miles on the car. Well, I'm super bummed out that I think the brakes are still crappy, so I'm gonna have to order up another master cylinder and try and warranty this one out. But we're still gonna try and take it around the block. We haven't started it in a while, and I'm gonna see if we can get this thing fired up. We may have to pull the air cleaner off and throw some starting fluid in it, but let's see what we can do. Come on. Yeah, that 6-volt battery just doesn't crank a car over very fast, so we may have to throw some couple squirts of starter fluid down the carbs. Now, the thing that sucks about trying to spray starter fluid down these carburetors is they're not super easy to get to. So you actually have to undo this whole air cleaner assembly. Just hasn't ran enough. What are you stuck on? Does that bend the crap out of the throttle linkage? This actually is probably one of the quietest Volkswagens I've ever had. It'll take a little bit to warm up. I'll throw the air cleaners back on. Now that it's fired up once, it should start up again pretty easy, and we'll go for a quick ride. So now that it's fired up once, it's pretty easy to get going down the road. The only thing that sucks is the brakes are still super sketchy, but it's sat for just too long, and I feel like we needed a win today because we actually thought the brakes were golden, and not so much. So we'll go for a quick ride. It's crazy how quiet this is compared to a Bug, especially with that stock muffler on it and all the engine stuff in place. It is super quiet. The only thing that sucks is with no brakes, it's a little harder to heel toe to keep it running because it does need a tune-up pretty bad. Definitely no hot rod compared to the 65. Plus I can't be driving quick anyway. A cop's about to pass us. We don't have any plates on. But it actually runs really good. Everything works in it. Might be almost out of gas, so I don't know that we're gonna go super far. But I'm really hoping to turn this into a daily driver. I've got a 2010 Volkswagen CC right now, and I would much rather like to drive some old school stuff like this every day. The brakes are there with a couple of pumps, but pretty sketchy. God, that sucks so bad about the brakes, because the car wants to die a little bit. So trying to keep it going is tough. It sounds really good though. I don't know how well that's coming through on my phone. Stay tuned. I am going to get some better audio equipment, so that'll be nice. Hopefully you guys can hear me a little better. It's actually kind of funny how slow this car is in comparison to that 65 that we bought with the 1835 in it. That might be the other reason the AC never gets to work, because I'm sure it'll just make it that much slower. Woo! A little backfire through the exhaust. It'll get up to speed though. I think this would actually cruise halfway decent on the freeway. We just haven't got to that point yet. Definitely feels a little wandery. I'm sure all the shocks are completely blown out in this thing, so that's going to be something that gets done. But it's a cool old car, and you get that old car driving experience, that's for sure. So we're headed back to the house. My fuel gauge shows we're pretty low, and I'm still kind of bummed out that we didn't get the brakes squared away. So hopefully the next time you see this, which might be another video of us trying to replace that stupid master cylinder, which is in a horrible spot. We got to remove the gas tank back out of the car to get to it. So who knows, maybe I'll try and keep this thing running until it runs out of gas. And that'll be a little bit of a less mess on the gas tank there. But I don't know. That's it for this episode of Mileage Unknown.